do you think the Excelsior scholarship is so bad?
All right, what are some of the things to expect going in as candidates, and why is the Excelsior program so bad? One, the things that have shocked me the most were how hard it is just to do the right thing, and even though everybody agree what the right thing is. And two, how easily and cheaply people sell out for not to do the right thing. So they don't even get a lot for it. And I was just very shocked about why people will look at the right thing in the face and not do it, and not even come home with a lot of stuff. Like, so that's a very shocking thing. And you should probably go into that with your eyes wide open. People will switch up just for a title. Nothing. And so you need to know that going in. The Excelsior program is not all it's cracked up to be. It does help SUNY students a little bit more. But one of the things that's most problematic for me is if you have to graduate within 4 years, or you can't participate, or you have to pay money back that you've already taken out. The majority of community students don't graduate in 4 years. I think it's about 25% that graduate in 4 years, which was 75% doesn't. And I graduated in 7 years, so I wouldn't have been able to take advantage of it. And the lowest income people that need assistance, they actually need books and room and board. This doesn't help with that. So they already have Tap and Pell that covers some of that. And so it's being touted as this progressive thing, but it's really not. And I don't think that's what Bernie Sanders had in mind when he was talking about free tuition. And so the governor has a cloak of progressive, he puts it on, and he takes it off. And right now it's popular, so he has it on and he's trying to push all the things that he thinks people want to hear. So I think that's all the questions I'm allowed. I really appreciate the time that you've given me, and I'd love to have you. Thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm John Wasserman. I'm the president of this great organization. Thank you all for coming out tonight. I see a lot of new faces in this room, and it's really exciting to see this energy here we have in Kings County, where the millennial spirit is growing. We have some of the most young people in any major city in the country, and thank you all for coming out. I really just want to say that I agree with the councilman on the Excelsior scholarship. You know, I go to CUNY, and it's taken me a little bit longer to graduate than I wanted, and if you're trying to pay for school while going to school full time, and you have a family at home that's making less than the poverty line, it's really hard, and this is not what Sanders meant when he talked about free college. So I just want to say that. I want to put it out there. So thank you very much, Councilman.
Higher Education Corporation.
We're going to move on. We have two DA candidates here tonight. The first DA candidate is going to be Patricia Gatling. I see her right there. Thank you so much. So if you would come up to the stage. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming out.
I'm glad to be here tonight. First of all, I ride by this bar. I've always wanted to come check it out, so I'm having cosmo before I leave. But because you're my last stop. But you know, it's good to be here. You know, I will quickly tell you why I'm running for DA, and I tell everybody I'm running for district attorney to bring legitimacy back to the criminal justice system. And when I say legitimacy, I mean fairness, integrity, transparency, and equity. You know, I started out, you know, and I look at your faces here, and I just have to say, you know, I remember when I first became an ADA, I was about your age, and Brooklyn wasn't the Brooklyn it is now, you know. And we're very, very happy about the Brooklyn that we have now. We want to keep it going, and we want to stay, and we want to continue to be the hippest place and the best place to live in the city, because it really is, even though it's a big city. You know, people complain that I lived in Manhattan, and I did. But, you know, but the thing about the difference I can tell you is Brooklyn is about families and about community, and it stays about families and about community. And that's the beautiful thing we have here. And the way to keep that is to be concerned about criminal justice. You know, I was the Human Rights Commissioner for 13 years here, up 12 years under Bloomberg and 1 year under the current mayor. And what I will say is that what the criminal justice system is sort of the last rung on the civil rights and human rights era. This is, if we don't turn this system around of justice so that it's fair for everybody, everyone is treated equally, so that, you know, we will not have social progress. Because I'm going to tell you, if the young black man who's sitting in Rikers Island for $110,000 a year, who hasn't committed a crime, isn't treated fairly, then guess what? Y'all ain't going to be treated fairly either if you don't end up there. And I know you wouldn't be here tonight if you didn't have that sense of community and understand how important it is that we're all on the same page with this. But that's why I'm running. And so what I would really like to do, if I don't know how long I have, but if I could take questions, because I think it's more important that you ask me, because you don't know me. You know, I could tell you my history. I was in the DA's office. I was the first assistant. I trained police officers. I started a program for reentry. I mean, I could tell you a lot of those kinds of things. But we know, and you know, you're going to vote for the person that you feel most comfortable with and that you can trust to make sure that things will happen the way you want them to happen in Brooklyn. So is that okay? Can I?
Yes, 3 questions.
Yeah,
3 questions. 3 questions.
Anyone have any? That's the question right back there.
Thanks for coming out. What do you think the biggest leverage point the DA can have in reforming the criminal justice system?
There are a lot of, here in Brooklyn, well, even just generally. First of all, bail reform. You know, there are places in this country where they call no cash bail, Washington, D.C. You know, you're ROR'd, or if they think that there's some criminal proclivity or something else is going to happen, they'll put an ankle bracelet on you. I believe in no cash bail because people aren't going anywhere. I can tell you the same people that lived on the same block are still in the same neighborhood, and they don't have a passport. They're not going to flee the jurisdiction, and that's the purpose of bail if we don't think that they're going to continue to commit a criminal act. So I think bail reform is very important. I think we need to stop, we need to, I don't know how to articulate it as well, but we've got to reduce the collateral consequences of the criminal justice system. And when I say collateral consequences, I'm talking about the victims and their families, because their families are also victimized when a victim is victimized. I'm talking about the defendant and his or her family, because their families are also brought into that. So we have an obligation to try and reduce those collateral consequences as district attorneys, to do something about mass incarceration. That is an obligation, it's a moral responsibility. And if we don't do this, we will still have the equity disparity that we have in financial. I don't know if most of you know, but you know, African Americans on the average in this country make $11,000, and if you're a white American, the average income is $140,000. How did that happen? How did that happen? Well, mass incarceration is one way it happened. Did I answer your? Oh, I'm sorry. I don't.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't.
So you brought up Rikers. So what are your thoughts on the plan to close Rikers and the introduction of new prisons in other boroughs?
You know, I'm kind of like Jemani. You know how you have one thought and then you go. You know, my first thought and first reaction to Rikers, because this problem, that the violence they have on Rikers, happened 30 years ago. I can remember 30 years ago when I started as an ADA, we had the same violent problems, if not worse, in Rikers. We painted it, we cleaned it up, we called it something new, we put expensive art on the doors that everybody stole, and it wasn't the inmates, I'm just saying. And no, you know, they put Salvador Dali, you know, and then all of a sudden it was gone. And you know, who did that, you know? And so, but it's still the same place. So my visceral reaction is that Rikers is bad symbolism. It costs too much money. You know, $110,000 a year to keep someone there, just from a tax point of view. 40% of the people on Rikers shouldn't, you know, are just awaiting trial. I mean, they've not been convicted of anything. And so my first reaction is close it down, get rid of it. My thinking about it and spending time thinking about it, and I, you know, and running as a DA, you know, when I think about it, I said, well, I don't believe in building other prisons. I think the plan that's out there is just a bad plan. Forget about it. You know, we need prisons. We need more prisons, like, you know, when you're hole in the head. And I just think that and the plan to me is just ridiculous. Why does it take you 10 years? If you know 40% of the people are awaiting trial and haven't been convicted, let's get them out. Let's just get them out. And then we have a smaller population. Now the other argument that you'll hear is corrections. Corrections is very concerned about, if you close it and then what happens if you reduce the corrections officers in the union. And that's a concern because, people want their jobs. But we need to figure out other ways. And one of the ways I say to people, if we're going to monitor people with ankle bracelets, you can still do that from other places, and there's still a role for corrections. But the real issue at Rikers is the violence. And I don't think that violence, if you have it at other prisons, you're still going to have the violence. So we've got to deal with that root cause of that violence. So either we need some retraining, or we need to figure out how we have people housed like animals, essentially, and deal with those issues and stop just trying to put them on for 10 years or put them different places, because that's not going to change it. My last question.
Good afternoon. Thank you for being here. My question is like a couple of parts. One, actually, what are your thoughts on continuing the legacy of Ken Thompson, of overturning wrongful convictions? Also, what are your thoughts on Jeff Sessions trying to overturn the harsh punishment? And what are your thoughts on ending the box that you ticked off once somebody comes out of being incarcerated and looking for a job and have the skills but is turned down because they were formerly incarcerated?
Well, I'll take the last question first because that's the easy one for me. Because I did start a reentry program in the Brooklyn District Attorney's Office in 1999 that's still going on to this day at the office, and it's called Calm Alert. And so I was working with people who were returning home from prisons back to their communities. And so the job issue of courses is critical. And so I don't believe in checking off the box. I absolutely do not believe that, because and as Human Rights Commissioner, I sued any number of companies for people who were formerly incarcerated to force them to hire, to force them to pay them. Because once you've done your time, then why are we still punishing you once you come out? I mean, what happened to America that we've become this place of punishment and not a place of rehabilitation and redemption? I've seen it happen. And, we've got to change that. Now, the other question was about Ken and the wrongful conviction. I've got two ways of dealing with that. My first, of course, all the district attorney's offices are now going to keep wrongful conviction pending. I think the one that we have in Brooklyn with Ken should be increased to include community members and the wrongfully convicted, because quite frankly, the wrongfully convicted had time, 27 years, to figure out how we as prosecutors got it wrong. And so they have a lot to add and bring to that table. And then I think the community needs to be involved with that, because I sit on the Bar Association, an integrity committee called, it's a lawyer's fund, and we pay people for bad lawyering when lawyers steal. And we have a seat at that table for community. And it's important to have community when you're talking about integrity, because it impacts on the community. So you need community on that group. But even beyond that, we need to have a prosecutor's integrity bureau so that we can constantly audit cases, that we can make sure that cases are being handled the same way they would be in the green zone or the red zone or the gray zone. Get rid of the zones too, but that's you didn't answer that one. But that we would handle cases in the same fashion, but constantly audit, sort of, because the U.S. Attorney's Office has an Office of Professional Responsibility, and it's a place to complain about ADAs and law enforcement professionals, but it's also a place to make sure that we audit and train ADAs so that this doesn't happen. Because you got to prevent it from happening. And where we're going to plug. And then the last question was about, what was the last one? Oh, Jeff Sessions. Well, I've known Jeff Sessions since the 80s, because he was in Alabama, I'm from Mississippi, and he was the Attorney General and the governor and a few things. Can I just say, after what I heard today on the news, we probably won't have to worry about him too much longer. And because, I think that, they've overstepped across the line. But again, they are federal and we are state. And it's going to take a lot of backbone, because a lot of the money that we get in the district attorney's office comes from the federal government. The HUD money, the burn money, the money used to do investigations, a lot of the money that's used for victims. So we're gonna, you know, we should just plan to not have that money and figure out how we're going to fund the programs and to fund the activities in the office without having to rely on the federal government. Because, you know, and to not have the kind of cooperation and interaction that we've had. I mean, in years gone by, we've had tremendously good success working with some of the U.S. attorneys. But if their philosophy isn't working with our philosophy, then sometimes you just need to step away and say, you know what, this is Brooklyn, this is New York, we're a model of justice. We're not about, you know, just locking up people, throwing away the keys, or pushing people and deporting people. And so we will maintain our integrity.
So much.
Thank you. Now I can go have my Cosmo.
Real quickly, I know that we have some candidates who came in the back. So we're having the candidates kind of line up along this wall. So if you are a candidate speaking tonight, you can just kind of come forward so that we can make sure that you are acknowledged when it's time for you to speak.
I think we should keep it closed for now and figure out All right, guys. I've looked around and I see some of you looking in the handouts, and some of you are seeing that the DEA questionnaires are not there. Well, we're having 3 runs, so we have the central, then we're having the southern, and then we're having the north. And we've invited each DA candidate to speak at one of the upcoming DA runs that work best for their schedule. So we are lucky to have here tonight our next DA candidate. His name is Mark Fleetner. Did I get that correct?
Thank you.
You know, I'm very good at pronouncing names, and you know, I have a stutter, but I'm very good at pronouncing names. Thank you so much, sir. So
yes, sir.
Please come up to the stage.
Hey everybody, so honored to be here. Wasn't going to miss my first chance. I'm going to begin by saying that I actually respectfully am coming at this journey to the District Attorney's Office. As the DA, I worked there for many years on and off, from a different perspective from my colleague that just spoke. She spoke of the fact that her objective is to restore integrity and fairness to the criminal justice system. I'm going to say something that's really hard for all of us to hear. I don't believe there's ever been integrity and justice in the criminal justice system as it relates to brown people and black people and disenfranchised people and people of immigrant communities and people, members of the LGBTQ community, of which I happen to be one. It has never worked fairly. And I have a vision, and it can take place in Brooklyn, where we achieve that. As we sit and stand together and gather here, there are hundreds of our brothers and sisters who are sitting in Rikers or sitting on some bench at the Brooklyn Detention Center, not because they're terrible people, but because they couldn't make $250 bail because they're poor. They're being punished before conviction for poverty. Bail reform, unacceptable. No assistant district attorney on my watch will make an unfair bail argument that is designed to get the judge to be afraid and keep somebody in jail. And I'm absolutely in favor of reviewing this cash bail that clearly just punishes the poor. No district attorney in my office will not take great care to look at the human beings at the center of every case. I am sick in my belly and tired of watching assistant district attorneys like zombies follow the status quo and feed this for-profit prison industrial complex by saying felony and 5 years. What about what drove the person to the criminal conduct in the first place? How many people did you and I pass today who clearly were in the throes of mental illness and acting out in a way that could result in criminal behavior because of the mental illness? Substance abuse, poverty, lack of access to certain resources. And so what's going to happen when I'm in charge of the district attorney's office is the people that screen these cases, all of these low-level cases that get processed through the system and make people have this criminal stigma for the rest of their lives. I am going to have a senior assistant district attorney, not some paralegal, which is what we have now, and a social services person to identify what drives the criminal conduct and therefore how that case should be handled going forward. Because all of these beds in Rikers, I remember watching de Blasio's announcement about Rikers. Did anybody see it on the news? And he had this, you know, he showed Rikers, and we all know it's a place of horrors, right? Where people become institutionalized and then learn things that they never would have learned anywhere else. And then he showed the replacement beds. And I thought to myself, there's a part of this speech missing. Where's all the people we're not going to put in bed somewhere before they've been convicted? Because that's what Rikers is. That's what Brooklyn House of Detention is. It's a place to house people before they've been convicted. And when we do proceed with cases, they are going to be cases that I, as the district attorney, have determined are appropriate for prosecution in the traditional sense. Ken Thompson was somebody that started a national movement with not prosecuting people for small amounts of marijuana that are in your possession for personal use. There are other offenses that need to be treated the same way. You're in possession of a syringe because you are trying to get through your drug addiction and change things. You have gone through the turnstile because of your particular situation that you're in right now. These are not going to be prosecuted through the system like some other person who committed a violent crime. And I have the courage, and I'll tell you why you know I do, because I stood up to the police officers and I ran the Civil Rights Bureau, where I tried hate crimes which need to be treated with great respect and dignity and cultural competence from the moment that somebody walks in there, and I tried police misconduct cases. And I tried those cases without fear, because I knew that when somebody violates the public trust, it absolutely destroys all of the confidence that we as citizens have in our police. And of course, it makes things more unsafe for the good police that are trying to do the right thing. But I have stood up to the police, and I will stand up to the police to say, if you arrest people for these low-level offenses, if you put cuffs on them, when I told you outright that I will not be prosecuting that case for possession of a syringe, then I'm sorry, police commissioner, it's on you if something bad happens to that person while they're in custody, because I am going to free them and I am not going to try those cases. There are plenty of violent crimes in this jurisdiction, unfortunately, that needed to be handled, and that includes sexual offenses and domestic violence. Now, that taps a little bit into all the reasons why I am eminently qualified to handle the job of district attorney. For 30 years I've been doing this work. We're talking, I started in sex crimes, child abuse, domestic violence, homicide, and then the civil rights. I would love some tough questions now.
Who's ready? Seamus.
Yes.
You were talking about some of your commitment to alternative sentencing. Can
Yeah.
you go through some of the programs you created when you were at the Brooklyn DA's office?
Oh, you mean in contrast to the candidate that you represent? You're trying to point that out because your candidate...
I don't work for it. You will not see me on any campaign
Okay.
finance
Well,
filings.
the plain and simple fact is I did many things when I was put in a position to do policy work. When I took over, for example, the Major Narcotics Bureau, and I saw that they were doing 30-count indictments against people for drug conspiracy, and I knew that the lowest 10 guys on the bottom of that conspiracy were people that were simply selling drugs a couple times to feed their habit, I stopped handling cases like that. And when I was put in charge of policy to create a police misconduct bureau, the Civil Rights Bureau, I set up a protocol where we could objectively evaluate whether a police officer did something wrong that is better than what is being handled by the Attorney General's office or the NYPD when they evaluate cases now. And you know what? When I left the office under its current leadership, all of that work stopped. It has stopped. There has been an absolute prohibition, apparently, on charging police officers who have committed offenses that violate the public trust. There is a need for change in leadership. And You give me the opportunity to create alternatives for sentencing, and I've already talked to the police people in the community that are ready to partner. And when they called the office, when your candidate was in charge, they didn't get a call back. Does that answer your question?
I never said I worked for her.
Any other questions?
Any other questions?
One on campaign finance filings.
Two.
Money.
As a baby of criminal justice, I love criminal justice. I've been studying for the last 8 years, doing my master's in it actually. What are your, formerly the manager of the Fee Dispute Department at New York County Lawyers Association. What are your thoughts on including now criminal justice cases into the bylaws of the program? Because a lot of cases come through my office. Well, used to come to my office about inmates complaining about their lawyers not acting appropriate or.
Look, I think that at any stage of a prosecution, from the moment that the individual has been apprehended by the police until the moment that they're finished serving their sentence, and actually beyond, that people should have access to review of any potential constitutional rights violation, due process violation, violation of the rules of discovery, and things like that. So my answer is that I'm always going to be in support of that being included in a program like the one in which you work. Does that answer your question?
Somewhat.
Well, please challenge me a little bit more, because I'd really like to get. I want to make sure I'm
right now, the only cases that's being heard is immigration, tort, and labor.
Right.
So they don't have that broad support of criminal, because I received a lot of cases from Rikers and other institutions that I have to turn them down because, you know, my office doesn't handle it, and nowhere in the court system handles the fee dispute for the criminal justice system. So that's why I was asking. And I think it's sad that we can't challenge the attorneys on the conduct that they did, trying to help these people supposedly get out of, you know, the situation that they're in and end up in jail.
You're asking to broaden the categories to include criminal justice, and I think consistent with the mission, that I think it's absolutely appropriate to do that, because again, we want people to have access to review of any insufficiencies in the criminal justice system, because it brings me back to my original premise, is the system has always treated people inequitably. And my dream for Brooklyn, and by the way, Brooklyn can send a message that will resonate throughout this country. This is the third largest office in the country. We get media attention. We can do this. Any chance to review and provide with equal justice for everybody, no matter what they look like or where they come from. That's my mission. That's my mission.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Feldman. I want to just mention Mr. District Leader Jacob Holt is here, everyone. Everyone give him a round of applause. Thank you, Mr. Holt, for coming. And give a round of applause for our Central VP, Liz Pierre. She's doing a fantastic job tonight and becoming a leader in this community, and thank you very much. I want to thank you very much. And now we're going to turn it to Debbie.
Thank you for your warm applause. So now we're going to move on to candidates from the 40th District. We're going to start with the incumbent, Councilman Matthew Eugene. Give him a round of applause, everybody.
Thank you very much.
She's going to let you know when you have a minute left.
Thank you very much. Good evening.
Good evening.
I know that, my time is limited. I'm going to be very, very, very fast. My name is Matthew Eugene, and I represent District 40 in Brooklyn. And I was elected in 2007. So, but before I was elected, I was in the community, working in the community, helping the children, the families, improving the quality of life in the community. I didn't have any intent to go to politics, let me tell you honestly. But I was pushed, I was asked to go to politics. And finally, I said, let me try, and you know the rest. But I'm very, very committed to young people, to the youth. Because we all know that the young people, they are the future of the nation. They are the future of the society. If we want to protect the future of this nation, we have to invest in the young people. And every time that we are talking about juvenile delinquency, we are talking about about how many young black, Spanish, and minority people in jail. But you know, if we want to treat a disease, we don't treat the symptom on the side. When somebody gets a fever or a headache, the fever is not the disease. We got to go to the origin. I think that in order to prevent the young people who go to jail, we got to give them the resources and the opportunity that they need to become productive citizens. That's what I've been doing before I was elected. And also, you know, when you listen to me talking, you may say that you was not born in the United States of America, like many of you. And I was born in a very beautiful island, Haiti, a country of difficulties. If somebody said to my mother or my father, your son would be one day a member of the great city council in New York City, my mother and my father would say. But because I had the opportunity to have an education, because I had the opportunity to have people to guide me, I stand before you today, and I'm humbled as the first Haitian American to be elected to government in New York State. That's the reason why I committed myself to open the doors to everybody, to the children, to the immigrant people. That's the reason why I've been doing everything that I can do to provide to the young people the opportunity that they need. And I know this country has been created by immigrants, and I'm a strong supporter and defender of immigrant people. Because, like myself, there are many people who came to this country. They came from a different culture. They need to understand the system. They need opportunity to survive and also to make a living and to have the piece of American dream. Affordable housing. You know, I was the chairman of the Veterans Committee. And I was talking to the veterans. I was fighting for them, for health care, for jobs and opportunities. One of them told me, council member, we love what you are doing. But if a human being doesn't have a place to live, forget about the rest. And that's the reason why I think affordable housing, especially now, is very, very important. And also I'm fighting hard, doing everything that I can do to provide affordable housing for the people that I'm privileged to serve. And also, health. What can you do without health? It doesn't matter how much money you have, how beautiful you believe you are, and how much power you believe you have. If you are not healthy, forget about it. That's the reason why I'm a strong advocate for health also. All the hospitals in my district, Kings County, Township Medical Center, and also Maimonides Medical Center, because they serve my constituent also. I've been doing everything that I can do to provide them with the resources and the funding that they need to provide the best quality of care to the people in my district and to the people in New York City. And also, you know, police brutality. There are so many people who have been victimized by the behavior of the police. Together with my council, my colleagues and the city council, we work hard to make sure that all people are protected. They are not insulted because of their race or because of the social economic situation. And today I'm here. Let me say that I'm very delighted, very honored, and I want to take the opportunity to the members of this great organization that brings vibrancy to the Democratic Party. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to come before you today. And I'm humbled and I'm appreciative. Thank you very much.
4 seconds.
4 seconds?
Yeah.
Wow. So you owe me 4 seconds, right?
You got 4 more seconds.
All right.
We can now take 3 questions if you have any questions for the councilman.
Questions for the sitting councilman?
Oh, wow. I'm lucky. Whoa.
Okay.
Thank you very much. God bless you. Hey, she has a question. She has a question.
Sorry. I have the opportunity to work very closely with the Flatbush Junction Business Improvement District.
Flatbush?
Junction Business Improvement District.
Yes, yes.
So there's a public space activation project in talks for Hillel Place by Starbucks. Correct? So I want to know, one, if you're aware of that project. The purpose behind activating that public space would be to give the neighbors in the area, the pedestrians in the area, because that street service is more pedestrian than it does car traffic. And it serves as a place for children that funnel there on the junction after school to hang out instead of in the stores and on the street. But I'm not sure how it's being received by people who can possibly put these things into motion. So I'm curious as to whether or not you know about the project and what your views on that project.
You know, I would love to talk about it, but unfortunately, it is not in my district, and I cannot talk, on behalf of my colleagues.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Just
Just miss it. Okay. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I was just wondering how you were planning to expand affordable housing in the district.
Oh, great. Good question. Let me tell you, I've been fighting for affordable housing because it doesn't make sense that in the great city of New York, people who are working every single day going to work, they cannot afford to pay rent. Some of them, they are doing 2 jobs. This is impossible. You know that the mayor came with the affordable housing program, right? When he came with the program, I was one of the council members to say, Mr. Mayor, I'm not part of it. Because they were talking about affordability, but it was not affordable for the people that I'm serving. And I work hard to ensure that the mayor bring more affordability and to bring it to the income of the people that I'm serving. Let me tell you something. In my district, I have supported 2 programs that brought affordable housing in my district. And right now we are working with another project. I don't know if you know about the Caton Market. The Caton Market, they are going to do a big development there. They were supposed to vote. I stopped the vote. I said, no way. Because you're talking about affordable housing, the people in my district, they won't be qualified for this apartment until they lower the qualification, and the people in my district now, they are qualified. Anytime there is a project in my district, if they receive any assistance from the government, I want to make sure that they put affordable housing, and truly affordable housing. When they say affordable housing, not for affordable housing for certain people, it can be affordable for everybody. And I will continue to do that. Yes, sir.
How are you helping with immigration and TPS in particular?
Oh wow, that's a great question. That's a great. Thank you very much. TPS, for those who don't know what is TPS, United States is a great country, a country that offers assistance and humanitarian relief to people living in the United States of America when the countries are in trouble. You can remember the horrible earthquake that struck Haiti, right? But there were Haitian people who were living in the United States. They didn't have immigration, legal immigration status. And I introduced a piece of a resolution 1595, to ask the federal government and the President of the United States to grant TPS to those Haitian people. They did it for Somalia, Nicaragua, and many other countries. And TPS was, provided to Haitian people. But it got to be renewed every 18 months because it's a temporary protected status. Now, this administration, in terms of immigration, that they don't want to have immigrant people. So that means they refuse to extend the TPS. And I'm doing everything that I can do to ensure that this administration will know the TPS. We are working together with the union. Cardinal Dolan is part of it. He wrote a letter to all the cardinals in Washington. They wrote also to the president and to the Homeland Security. We have Bishop DiMaggio and many elected officials throughout the United States. We launched also a petition. We collected about 30,000 signatures. We are working very hard to ensure that the Haitian people can have the relief, because Haiti is still in a critical situation. After all the natural disasters, political turmoil, Haiti is not ready yet to receive 58,000 Haitian people who would be deported to Haiti if they didn't receive the TPS. Yes, sir.
Oh, sorry, that was the last question. Last I'm sorry, that only 3 questions per candidate. I'm sorry about that. We have to give this. I do understand that, but we have to give respect to all the candidates here. So it was 3 questions per candidate. I do sincerely apologize.
Regarding homelessness.
I do understand your stance, and homelessness is a very important issue, but like I said, we have to give respect to all of the candidates. You can feel free to contact Mr. Eugene in the back.
Thank you very much. God bless you. Thank you.
So the next person we have up from the 40th district is Miss Pia Raymond. So you guys can give her a hand of a round of applause, please. Mrs.
So I'm gonna go like this for 1 minute and like this for 30 seconds.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good evening. Thank you for having me, Brooklyn Young Democrats. I really appreciate the opportunity to address everyone tonight. My name is Pia Raymond. I'm native of Brooklyn, New York. I'm a 5th-generation Brooklynite living in Lefferts Gardens with my family. I'm a wife and mother, and I'm excited for the opportunity to, if you will support me, to represent the 40th Council District. It encompasses Prospect Lefferts Gardens, Ditmas Park, Kensington, and parts of Flatbush, East Flatbush, and Crown Heights. We've had a wonderful opportunity for growth in our community. We've had a tremendous things that we've come through in our community, but we know that we have an opportunity for growth. And we have a lot of people in the community who are being displaced currently. From people in apartments to houses, there's a lot of foreclosure that's happening. Many of our seniors in particular are being targeted by predatory people that are interested in purchasing their houses for way lower than what their houses are valued at. And likewise, we have many people living in apartments who are being abused by their landlords and not being adhered to with their rights as far as where they can advocate for themselves and tenants. So I look forward to supporting people in our community. I already work closely with Impact Brooklyn and Brooklyn Legal Services to assist people who have issues with housing. And I definitely commit to continued support and funding for those programs. I serve in a number of capacities in the neighborhood. I'm Vice President of the Nostrand Avenue Merchants Association, which services the corridor on Nostrand Avenue between Eastern Parkway and Linden Boulevard. I also serve as Chairperson of Economic Development Committee in Brooklyn Community Board 9, which encompasses Nostrand Avenue, among other corridors such as Flatbush Avenue, Rogers Avenue, which has a growing commercial district, Utica, Albany Avenues. So I look forward to continuing to work with our merchant community. It is the life and the vitality of our economic growth that comes from the people in the community that helps to drive us forward. We know that we have a lot of developers coming into the community that bring big dollars, but they're not necessarily supporting those who have pioneered the community. We have a number of programs already in place to inspire community residents to open businesses in the communities in which they live. We've had a number of businesses who have opened, especially on Nostrand Avenue, where we're able to generate community. We have opportunities for people to come in, shop, but then also connect with other members to make us stronger and grow together. We listen to issues that we had from both residents and merchants alike, especially regarding parking in the community, that we had exorbitant tickets that were happening. We worked closely with DOT to actually look at metered parking, restore metered parking, and reduce truck loading and unloading zones to help to drive traffic and drive people walking and shopping in our neighborhoods. I also serve as Vice President of the Lefferts Manor Association, which is the historic enclave in our community. I'm committed to community preservation and making sure that we keep the history and culture alive as we grow and encourage the growth, but also make sure that those who have pioneered here can continue to thrive and live and support our children in that process. In our area, our schools, we have committed teachers and administrators, but we still have a lot of work that's yet to be done. We still have a lot of children that are not reading at grade level. We still have a tremendous technological divide that inhibits people from knowing what's happening, from connecting, and from allowing our children to be very competitive in the college application process and then in the workplace to follow. So I look forward to continuing to serve our schools, to fund our schools, and right now, even on the ground, we recently hosted a Young Entrepreneurs Summit, in which I see some of the attendees here, where we really look to inspire our students that are in the community to learn more about business, to have tools in hand, as we had services from TD Bank and Carver Bank, which are in the community, to help people to know what they can do so that they can grow and serve their community in the future and also be civically engaged. So it's wonderful to see so many young Democrats here, and I look forward to supporting the younger population, because many times the young people are not engaged civically. So we have a unique opportunity to see this growth so that we can all build on it together.
Any questions? What's a problem, a common problem that you've encountered in your community rights organization, and a concrete action that you can promote as a council person to mend that issue?
I heard the first part, I couldn't hear what you said.
What's a concrete action that you can promote as a council person to mend that issue?
So one of the issues that I've heard consistently from tenants is that, especially our older tenants, our seniors who are used to paying with check, that they paid their landlords in check for a number of years, 40 years in some cases in their buildings. And then they get an eviction notice, which has happened in recent times. When they go to court or they inquire of their landlord what's happened, the landlord has claimed that they haven't received any payment for their rent in the past 3 months. Now this senior, for example, does not necessarily check their bank account on their phone like some of us may do. So they're just used to paying from this account, and it's always been this way, and they don't realize the check has not been cashed until they've already gotten the eviction notice 3 months later. So I see that as something that happens frequently, and I'm very blessed to be in tenant association meetings where people are connecting and letting each other know that this happens, and connecting with legal services to fight for those people in court. So that's an action of connecting people with these resources so that they can fight the tenants and landlord and tenant and landlord court.
What's your position on the homeless and family shelters in the community?
So I serve on Community Board 9 in the Land Use Committee, and so there's a great number of shelters, proposed homeless shelters that are scheduled to come to our community. Now some of them are not in the 40th Council District, so I don't want to speak on those that are beyond that perimeter, but community residents, merchants, community at large, it's not that people are not invested in making sure that people in the area have housing, but the homeless shelters is not a way to serve that. We know that we have properties that have much more of an opportunity for affordable housing that really reflects the income tiering of our immediate community, not of the larger New York City, including Westchester, but of Crown Heights, of Flatbush, of East Flatbush. So I definitely support having affordable housing and the income tiering to represent the people who live in the area, but not just infiltrating the entire community with homeless shelters with no long-term plan of where people will be housed. We have so many children that are in our homeless shelter system that is unacceptable, and we know that children cannot continue to learn and be stimulated in an environment when they don't know where they're going home to, or many people are in shelters outside of their district, outside of their borough. I actually, this past weekend, was at Fenimore Street United Methodist Church doing a reading with children and families who are in homeless shelters in Brooklyn, but then also who are coming from other areas, other boroughs, even though they're Brooklynites.
Last question.
How do you translate the work that you've done in your Merchants Association and your community board into being an elected official?
Well, I've had the opportunity throughout all the different roles that I serve to really connect very closely over many, many years with residents, with business owners, with children, with schools, and I really look forward to continuing to do that work and connect with community-based organizations, as I'm already doing, to make sure that there's funding that's appropriate to allow these organizations to grow and to be able to continue to serve our community at large.
So we have another candidate from the 40th District. Her name is Jennifer Berkeley, so if you guys could just please give her all of your attention right now. A round of applause that she makes her way to the front of the room. Here you are.
Hey everybody, how's everyone doing tonight? It's great to be here. I was once sitting right where you're sitting. My name is Jen Berkeley. I'm running for City Council in District 40. I'm a proud rent stabilized tenant in the neighborhood, and when I say I was once sitting where you were sitting, is that because about 10 years ago I was in Manhattan Young Dems, yes, lived in Manhattan also, and moved to Brooklyn because this is where I wanted to lay down my roots. I got married and have been in the community, and for the last 6 months or so, I have been talking with my neighbors, my friends, business owners, kids, dog walkers, everyone in the community that I come in contact with about whether or not the time is right to run this campaign. And I recently came to the decision that it is indeed the best time. And the reason for this is that I work now as a tenant organizer and a housing advocate. And I've been doing this work for many years. And I have seen firsthand too many times what's happening to families and seniors and individuals in our community. You heard before that our district is quite broad. It encompasses parts of Crown Heights, East Flatbush, Dickens Park, Kensington, and Prospect Lefferts Gardens. And we are in a state of flux, I think is a fair thing to say. I don't know how many people here are from District 40, but we, I think, are going to be hit very soon with the folks that are priced out of Crown Heights or priced out of some of the other neighborhoods on the southern tip of Prospect Park. And we are going to have even more of what's happening now that you heard a little bit about, which is massive displacement of people living in rent-stabilized apartments. Our district has one of the largest portions of rent-stabilized housing stock in the entire city. And it's been my job for the last few years to protect that. And on the city council, I want to continue to do what I can within that body to protect our housing stock that's affordable. The new housing that's being built, I just read this past week, there's a project going up soon if it gets the proper agreements for housing on the corner of Portelliu and Ocean. There's a church there. There's supposed to be 76 new units, and so far I haven't seen a plan for how many of those units are going to be affordable to the current incomes of folks in my district, and I'm very concerned about that. And we don't know about a lot of other projects that are in the pipeline that I'm hearing about. I'm also concerned about our kids. There's segments of our community that are really under-resourced and don't have the tools and the things that the kids and the teenagers in high school don't have what they need to thrive and go on to successful careers or jobs. And our high school dropout rates are very high, and I want to work to do something about that. And one of those things is to bring mentorships into the schools that don't exist now, pair students up with recent grads that are successful so they have role models to sort of show them the way. I also really want to do something for our youth. I can't tell you when I'm walking around winter or spring, how many kids are walking around with nowhere to go, nothing to do. And I'd like there to be, I think there's the will and the resources with our thriving business community to build a youth center, and that would be one of the things I would work extremely hard. I also want to help small business owners who are struggling to stay in the community with the same displacement pressures that some of our tenants are facing as well. And also, one of the greatest things about where I live is the Caribbean culture, and that is just so alive and so great, and the food is amazing if you haven't been. And it's a struggling community in some ways because of the factors that I pointed out. So I'm going to do whatever I can to continue to champion the culture that those folks bring to the community, and I'm so excited to be here. I guess I'm ready to take questions. Thank you. Thank you so much. Hey, how are you?
Good, how are you? Can you just talk about how long you've been in the district and what your roots are in that community?
Sure. So I've been in the district for for almost 5 years, which I know is not as long as a lot of other folks. But it's my home, and I spend a significant amount of my time in my community. I started a tenant association in my building. We have a block association on my street now, and I've been extremely involved in the tenant groups that are doing work in both rent-stabilized housing and some of the other city programs that we have in the district. And I've also been following the development of, potential homeless shelters that could or could not decide to locate within the 40th district. I also am someone who believes in shopping locally, if that's not really cliche yet. I only shop in and around my district, and I cheer on local businesses. I'll be having my campaign launch party on the 31st at the place where I get my hair done, and so I'm very excited. And the business owners are one of the most amazing parts of the district, and I really value the relationships I have with a lot of those folks. Anybody else?
A serious question. So you being, obviously a white woman, do you think the people in the predominantly Caribbean community are going to connect with you?
Are going to connect with you?
Are they going to connect with you?
So,
if so, if not, what are you doing to improve that connection?
I think that is a really good question, and obviously a very important question, and I've asked myself that as well. My feeling is that if any part of our community is oppressed, all of us are oppressed in some way. And I know that might sound kind of trite, but I truthfully mean it. I connect with people in my job all the time who look and sound very different from me. I've been fortunate to work with HUD tenants across the city who are some of our lowest income New Yorkers, and many of them come from Caribbean or Caribbean backgrounds, Jamaican, Haitian, and I feel that I'm connecting with them in the same way that I connect with people from all over the world. I was really lucky that I grew up in a community outside of Boston where there were kids from all over the world, and I was exposed to languages and cultures and customs that most kids don't have the opportunity to do. And I'm one of the, of a lot of people I know. I have an extremely diverse group of friends, family. This is my life, this is my home. So I will work extra hard to make sure that even if I don't look like you, that I'm championing for your causes all the time. And I will make work extra hard to make sure that that's not a question in anyone's mind. Thank you. Sure. One more?
Do you plan to continue participatory budgeting in the district, and do you have specific ideas for capital projects that you believe are needed?
I'm really glad that our council member did start participatory budgeting in the district. I always do that. I would like to see it grow even more. I was so excited when I got this text reminding me to vote in the process. My projects, the one thing that I just named to you, which will definitely cost a lot of money, would be a youth center for our teenagers. That's one thing. I also think that we need to grow. We need to grow to the different business districts in the area, and I would do whatever I could to bring resources to that. And I would be a terrible housing advocate if I didn't say that we need to increase resources for housing advocates, because they're the first stop before people get to legal services and are about to go in front of a judge with an eviction notice. If an organizer gets to you in time, you can stop all of that. So I firmly believe that that's a place that we should be spending our money.
Thank you.
Thank you. You're welcome.
sorry, we're just gonna get these people an opportunity to come in. In the meantime, before I announce the next candidate for the 40th district, I just want to give a shout out to our 43rd district leader, Jeffrey Davis.
Right on time. Wait. Okay.
There we go. Oh my God, where is he?
That's it for me. I go see.
So I know that we're hearing a lot of information. I know that some people brought palm cards upstairs, so feel free to stop by the sign-in table and check those out. I'm going to introduce the next candidate for the 40th district. Her name is Rose St. Alborn. Also, one last announcement. Please make sure to get a drink upstairs. They created 2 fabulous drinks for us. Please try them out. Please tip the bartender. As a person with service experience, it's how they all make their money in tips, so please be generous. And give it up for Rose one more time.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you, the Young Dems, for giving me this opportunity to come and basically share you know, who I am with you. So I live in East Flatbush, which is the in the 42nd Assembly District. The 40 Council District is made up of 3 Assembly Districts: the 42nd, the 43rd, and the 44th. These districts are different. They're different in the sense that the values in wanting to improve the quality of life for families are the same, but the services, the equity that's put in these districts are different. I'm here because I heard many people talk about, you know, youth centers, incarceration rates, affordable housing. That's just a term, because the housing that's going up in these districts are not affordable. If we are to talk about youth and giving them the opportunity to excel, then we have to take into consideration the time that the parent is spending away from the home in order to be able to afford a place that they can't afford. So in turn, the youths are in the street. There's so many people in government right now that wear a cloak. You know, as the council member spoke before, our community has continuously been sold out at a cheap price. We talk about shelters. Down the block from my house, I have 3 shelters. I protested against the shelters. I'm a part of the community board now, Community Board 17, but when I was just a resident and I said, but why, you know, why all these shelters going up? They tell me, you can't, there's no say in it. What do you mean there's no say? We pay taxes, people have homes. People have weathered the darkest times in these constituencies. And now that we're gonna use the word gentrification has come in, these people are being pushed out. You set the foundation. The community has never been poor, but the service that the community receives is poor. So I'm here to champion and stand resolute in the fact that we are here. We are here because we work every single day to provide a future and a legacy for our family. I have a 19-year-old. We want to talk about police reform. I tell my son, when you go outside, you know, like, walk straight and narrow, because he doesn't have the opportunity to be a teenager, because he always has to watch his back because someone may think that he's doing something that he wasn't doing, or that he, you know, he looks like a suspect because he's black. I have a 6-year-old. When we're walking down the street, when I'm taking him to school, he's giving police officers high fives. Okay? So I have a 19-year-old and I have a 6-year-old that have 2 different relationships with police officers. And I'm in the middle as a mom, as a community resident who is involved and who has continued to expose both of her sons to what the streets have to offer. I came to this country when I was 4 years old. I'm from the beautiful country of Haiti as well. Okay, right now, I work as an advocate. I deal with providing social services to people who are being forced out of the apartments because the landlord is willing to take money from the city to turn that apartment into a shelter apartment and receive more money than the tenant is paying. We have a family and children's shelter on one side. We have a adult shelter on one side, and we have another family and children's shelter on another side. We have 3 shelters in my constituency. So I'm running because the entire constituency needs to come together. There's a separation, and we cannot thrive if we do not connect together. There's a separation between what's coming out of the city council and what's really being handled in the constituency. So I'm the person to bridge those 2 things. Thank you. Question? Anyone? Yes.
You mentioned your opposition to some of those homeless shelters in your district. What's an alternative that you put forward as a councilperson?
So we know there's about 64,000 people in homeless shelters. 24,000 of those are children. It's not the fact that we don't want homeless shelters. It's just that we cannot afford saturation. We live in a big city. There's no reason why an immense amount of shelter should be put in one constituency. I live in the 42nd. I don't really, my job, my responsibility is to find out what's going on in the 43rd, what's going on in the 44th, and see where else shelters could go. We've had enough already. So now my position as a council member would be to transition those people effectively into permanent housing. Okay, because once a person comes out of the shelter, as long as they're out of the shelter for 30 days, they're considered to have integrated into the community successfully. Once a person comes out of the shelter, they're automatically cut off of public assistance. How are they supposed to maintain the apartment they were just giving? This is how they do recidivism. Okay? They go into the shelter, they get the services, they get a subsidy, they move out. Once they move out, in order to get the subsidy, you have to be on public assistance. So if they're working and they're making over the amount that they're supposed to make, they get cut off of public assistance. They cannot pay the rent, even if they wanted to. They cannot pay the rent, and what happens? Back to court, back to shelter. So my goal is to help them not need to be a recidivist to get back into the shelter. Permanent housing, resources, education, information is power. And a lot of these people do not have information and resources to help them to get to where they need to be.
Hi. So you've mentioned that you have a passion, it seems, to ensure that folks who are in an underemployed situation don't re-enter the shelter. If you can outline for us 3 specific things that you would do and what legislation would be around that for the 43rd district, that would probably be helpful for me.
Okay, so legislation. One thing is so there's kind of like no transition between the shelter and transitional services once you leave the shelter. So that would be one of my main focuses, because in order for someone to become stable in a place of instability, they need the opportunity to, you know, get their feet back on the ground. And in order to do that, they need transitional services so that they can actually become successful. They can work, they can take care of their kids, they can look into education services to help them get a better paying job, or better yet, a career where they'll be able to become more stable. So that's number one, giving them more transitional services, so in turn they will be more stable. Two is actually finding out what they want to do with their lives and seeing where they want their family to be. This thing about politics is about really setting the future for yourself and your children. This is why we're all standing up here. And progression is a hard thing to do when you feel that everyone is against you. When you go into certain places for services.
Sorry, I just really kind of want to understand those three things, but I understand transitional wraparound services. I'm just kind of waiting for those other two things.
So education would be another thing, and child care would be another thing. So transitional services, education, and child care.
So how would you couple those three
I'm sorry, in the interest of time, I know that we want to get all of our questions answered, but you can feel free to follow up with the candidate after.
Thank you.
So I'm just gonna.
So that's three.
Yeah.
One more question.
In the interest of time, I just kind of.
One more. Okay.
Everyone.
Okay, you're right. Go ahead.
How would you propose bringing jobs to the district?
So depends on where in the district you're talking about, because again, there's 3 different districts within the constituency, and everyone wants different things. So my general overview of things is having everyone meet together to see where the most jobs are coming from. We have a boom in technology, we have a boom in green energy work, so I would focus there in technology and green jobs. And also there's a lot of construction going up, so we would do construction jobs as well. A lot of people in the constituency go to school and they have no place to work. So we can create the community center to allow the people who have gone to school and have skills the opportunity to work in the community, to build a community, and just make it a better place for all of us.
Thank you. So I do want to ensure you that I'm not trying to limit your speech, that the point of this forum is to give you the platform to speak, but I do want to be mindful to all the candidates who are here and all the members who have somewhere to be afterwards. So we're going to move into a new format where we're now doing 3 minutes of a platform and taking 2 questions. Did the candidates, the remaining candidates hear that? We're going to move to 3-minute platforms and 2 minutes. 3 minutes, 2 questions.
You can take 6 questions, no platform. I have a lot of platform. I can move to this question.
Okay, so that's fine. So our next and final candidate in the 40th district is Brian Cunningham, who's going to be just taking questions. So he's going to take 6 questions and not give a platform because he has palm cards with him. Yeah. You can find those upstairs.
Okay, I'm going to put you on 8 minutes.
Good compromise?
Yes. 6 minutes.
Good night, everyone. I'll jump right into the questions. My palm cards actually have a lot of my bio. I was born and raised in the district, lived there all my life. My mother is I'm a first-generation American. She got here from the West Indies, beautiful island of Jamaica. In 1975, she saw 2 churches, 2 train stations, 2 hospitals, and figured this was the place to live. Brooklyn's narrative is changing, clearly, right? I'll just do 1 minute really quickly. But Brooklyn's narrative is changing. 4 years ago, Bill de Blasio promised to end the Tale of 2 Cities. Well, it's coming to an end. We are seeing a city for the wealthy and the elite. In our district, we have more evictions than ever before. Rent has gone up 80% in the last 10 years. Small businesses are closing. We have youth that have 1 beacon center. We have seniors who are being priced out. And we have a number of issues, but I want to take your questions respectful to the time of the moderator. So I'll take 6 questions.
6 5.
Cunningham NYC, you can check out the website.
Okay. Anybody have any questions?
What do you do right now?
I left my job, my brother's keeper, last year to run for office full time. But I have worked in the city council as chief of staff, worked as a director of small business to Councilman Cornegie. I worked as a special assistant to Senator Kevin Parker. I worked at Canberra in youth services, and I worked in housing services with Nazareth Housing. So I've had a number of jobs the last few years.
How would you contrast yourself being incumbent in one major way?
It's a good question. I don't really contrast myself in the incumbent in some ways. I mean, in many ways, I am a fighter. I am who I am. I was born and raised in this community. I love my community deeply. I've had a spectrum of experiences that prepared me for this job. So I won't say that I haven't, since I work in youth services. When I worked at Canberra, I saw the policies and the resources that were allocated to our kids, and I set my eye on fixing those problems in our city government, and I began to take jobs preparing me for this day to run for office. So in terms of coming to the office, in terms of coming to the chamber on day one, I'm adequately prepared in many different aspects of the job, coming to that chamber, but also bring a fresh perspective.
In education in the community district, what would you do to address the situation with education and the inadequacies in the education system coming specifically to the border district, given that many of the schools are in decrepit condition and outdated equipment, etc. What would be your position on education?
So across the city, we have what's called a technology divide, right? And truly a homework divide. Kids do not have access to high-speed internet to do their work. We have, like you said, crumbled down infrastructure in schools, both on the capital front and also on the technology side. There's no way to exist in this society today without access to technology. So we have to do more in terms of using our city dollars from the capital perspective to continue to build the capacity of schools. The second piece is we have to use our resources from a discretionary standpoint to help those schools with programs. Spoke to the UFT earlier today. They have a number of programs they want to roll out, but the funding is lacking in school district 17 and 22. So definitely want to see how we could push more about discretionary funding. We have an $86 billion budget that's passed annually. When you have an $86 billion budget, it comes down to what are your priorities, right? And if education is a priority, we put our resources and our money where our mouth is.
Great. I'm really interested in how you can speak to different community leaders, stakeholders, and especially religious leaders. So how do you see yourself communicating with those in the mosque, in the church, in the synagogue, and really communicating with different ethnic groups and also crossing that religious boundary with political?
Absolutely. So I spent a lot of my time in my life growing up in church. I grew up going to Lenox Baptist Church in the corner of Lenox and Austrian. But my church is not just a Baptist church. It's an intersection of culture and community, and other pastors and imams and rabbis come to our church. Oftentimes have clergy meetings. I served as communication director for my church for 5 years. So a lot of that was outreach to different communities, different churches, different mosques, different centers. So there's a cross-sectionality of religion. Obviously, religion is about faith, right? And you find those common grounds to make those connections with folks.
Your ideas about health and wellness in the community?
Health is primary. I think there are 3 things you can't compromise on when you talk about budgets. You can't compromise education, you can't compromise health, and you can't compromise housing. We have 2 of the major hospitals in our district, downstate in Kings County. Those hospitals will never have to worry about being a resource with the resources they need, because when I was a child growing up with asthma, my mother, again, in her wisdom coming in the 1970s before having me, knew that that hospital was critical to her survival as a person, but also me going there to get asthmatic care as well. So those hospitals need resources as well. And what the wellness piece is really using things like I sit on the board for the Flatbush YMCA and making sure that we have programs that include the community as well. So it's not shutting those communities out and making sure folks have opportunities and access to health and wellness programs.
Last question. Last question.
Go ahead. Last question.
Housing question?
I have a question on the healthcare. Are you familiar with the Northwell study of the Central Brooklyn Health Care?
Yeah, the governor's been talking about this a lot recently.
What is your position about that and the structure that's supposed to come to the district?
The problem with me with that particular study is that with appointments of who gets appointed to the chairman, to the board, they're going to consolidate these various boards of the hospitals and create one board. Many of those are handpicked by the governor. I'm concerned primarily when there's so many political appointments to the board because it leans a political agenda. I would like to see more inclusion in terms of more of the hospitals having either their chairs or representatives sit on those boards. to make it more equitable in favor of the community and also the interest of the hospitals.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I want to thank all the candidates from the 40th district. So if you are a paying member of BYD, you received a straw poll. So all the candidates who spoke were listed. Please be sure to cast your vote, and then we'll collect that from you later.
And if you haven't paid, please pay. We really rely on small donations to fund the DARI initiatives here. We're looking to build a new website, and everything counts, so please help out.
So now we're going to move on to District 36. The first person we're going to have speak is Councilman Robert Cornegy. You can guys give him your attention, give him a round of applause. Mike's all the way over here, guys.
Thank you. That's all right. That's cool. That's cool. So I want to start by just saying thank you for allowing me to come and speak tonight. I want to say that my attire tonight is not a testament to understanding the significance of the endorsement here. It's a testament to the fact that 3 days a week I bike the 250 Broadway because of my children making me reduce my carbon footprint. So it's very difficult to bike in a suit. So one, excuse me for my attire, and two, excuse me for being out of breath. I am a man of a certain age, and I probably should not be biking all the way to 250 and back in a hurry to get to this meeting, so excuse me. My name is Robert Cornegy Jr. I am the council member for the 36th Council District. I am also the co-chair of the Black, Latino, and Asian Caucus, and I chair the Committee on Small Business for the New York City Council. I sit on Civil Service and Labor, Housing, Finance, and Education. And I take those committees very seriously. I have the distinction of being in the top 10 percentile of legislation produced over this past legislative session, which I'm very proud of. So that's everything from Avante's Law to the first ever in the country tenant harassment and neglect bill, to the bill that was just produced, the mayor signed into law, my 3-1 Weldon bill, that gives push notifications for establishments like this who get complaints from the community, so they're able to, before going to their community boards to renew their liquor licenses, they have a chance to remediate any complaints that are made against them. So I'm really proud of the work we've done across the spectrum and across not only small business, but every single committee that I sit on, I've had at least one and sometimes two pieces of legislation that were passed. I'm really proud that most of that legislation was informed and formed in rooms just like this. I'm getting information on the needs of communities and taking it back and translating that into legislation. That's really the role of a city council member. So the advocacy that you see is terrific. Being on the steps of City Hall and being 7 feet tall and yelling about an issue is terrific. But the reality is, I was voted into office by a narrow margin. And by the way, I just want to make one distinction. I had the most money in the history of the New York City Council was spent in my election. $700,000 was spent against me. And we still emerged victorious because we touched every single individual in the district and were able to make a difference in that way. Again, you know, I made a promise to my family and to my constituency, one promise, that no one at the New York City Council would outwork me. And I go to work every single day with that determining factor on how I produce legislation or how I champion an issue. Right now, before you is a very serious issue, and that is the Close Rikers campaign. And the Close Rikers advocates came to me and they said, listen, we want your support on this. And I said, if you're going to close Rikers, but continue the pipeline from our communities to prison without adjusting that, then I won't sign on. And I was able to produce a piece of legislation. Many of you may not know that there are two distinctions for individuals that are on Rikers Island. One is detainees, and the other are sentenced individuals. Unfortunately for us, in our city jails, 80% of the individuals in our city jails are detainees. And detainees are not entitled to services. So if you can imagine, I'm sorry, let me just back up a little bit. Before I became a city council member, I was a New York City policy analyst at the New York City Council, and I sat on aging and veterans. And I was paid very little money, but I wanted to make sure that I could understand the process of authoring legislation before I took this seat. So I served 4 years for very little money and a lot of aggravation at home because I wanted to be the best prepared I could be to produce legislation, which is what I got elected to do. So we have detainees and we have sentenced individuals. And a lot of the violence that takes place is because there's no programs available for detainees. My bill is named, unfortunately, for Khalif Browder. It's called the Khalif Browder bill, because what I seek to do with that bill, and I'm hoping in the next few weeks the mayor will sign it, they're making adjustments to it right now, but what it does is it says that if you're a detainee or a sentenced individual, it doesn't matter if you're there 30 days or more, you're entitled to services. So that's the ability to reduce the rate of recidivism. And the only reason I'm bringing that up because that's an issue that's on the table, and we're all excited about the idea of closing Rikers Island, but I'm making sure Rikers Island is not closed for luxury development later on in the future, and making sure that the system itself gets on the right trajectory and not just closing Rikers Island. The issue of shelters was brought up. Everybody knows my stance on that. I've been against the mayor on the opening of 90 shelters because I was elected not only to produce legislation, but to be a good fiscal steward. And it's been stated and statistically proven that it costs 4 times as much to temporarily house an individual as it does to provide long-term sustainable housing. So I asked Commissioner Banks yesterday in a hearing to give me the number on the cost of the new shelters and to see if we could shift that cost to long-term sustainable housing for our people. So that's what I've been doing. I would really like an endorsement to go back and continue to do the work that we started together and that I worked tirelessly to do. So thank you for allowing me to speak, and I guess I'll take questions. Thank you.
Can you speak to your constituent service work throughout that stuff?
Listen, that's how I got elected, right? And so we have a lot of fights in my office about legislation we produce and all of that, but the one thing that's the most important thing to me is how we delineate our constituent services. That's from our seniors to our young people. We'd like to be available and accessible. I'm always available and accessible. Constituent services is the #1 thing out of my office that I take pride in. Yes, sir.
Talk a little bit about MWBE's Local Law 1 that was passed and what other measures are going to put in place to ensure that minority business continue to grow.
So this will probably be the only credit that I give to Mayor de Blasio tonight is for the formulation of the MWBE task force and also the office of MWBE that deals directly with not only certifications but making sure that people who get their certifications have contracts and have jobs. You know, I work directly as the chair of the Committee on Small Business with my chair of contracts, which is Helen Rosenthal, and my chair of women's issues, which is Lori Cumbo. Many of you know we work in tandem together to ensure that Local Law 1, even though it's been heavily weighted for a particular demographic and it didn't serve what we thought it would serve when that law was in place, we're working on ratifying it to make sure that it really is inclusive to MWBEs across the board. But there have been 2 $10 million pots for bridge loans, for the ability for businesses that can't bond, that are MWBE companies, to be able to get access to that. So it's been my pleasure to work in conjunction with that committee to bring more MWBE participation to not only the city contracts, but across the board. And just the last thing I want to say in terms of MWBEs and in terms of employment, I heard a question asked about education. A question asked about jobs. And for me, one of the things that I've been working diligently on is there's a statistic that says if we build capacity in every small business in the city of New York to hire 1 more person, we will reduce the rate of unemployment by 50% in 5 years. And so when I told the mayor that, I didn't have no long soliloquy. I said, why aren't we doing that? Why are we not building capacity through access to capital, access to technical assistance so small businesses can grow, just to hire 1 more employee? If we did that, in 5 years, we would decrease this tremendous problem that we have with unemployment. So.
Great.
So we have one more candidate from the 36th district. His name is John Joyner Jr. So you guys can give me your attention and respect as he makes his way down to the floor.
Hello all, my name is John Joyner Joseph Jr. I'm running to represent the 36th District of Bedford-Stuyvesant and Northern Heights. As we can see, basically, something's going on in Bedford-Stuyvesant, and let's just be truthful, we have to blame somebody, and it has to be Carnegie. We have to blame them. Something's going on. Our small businesses, we have no small businesses, they're shutting down, and this is not only in our district, but this is citywide. We have about over 54,000 businesses that are closing every year. And as chairman of small businesses, there's something going on. It's because our small business owners don't have the legislation that actually protects them, that really does something for them, for us. So I'm running to represent the 36th District because I see the potential in us, and I know when we stick together, we stand up for what matters, we have somebody that's behind us, that's going to actually make the moves, and then we are going to build together, I'm a social and housing advocate. I've been advocating for social and housing development for about 2.5 years now. I'm also a business owner of a courier and bike messenger corporation because I believe I started my business to actually employ our people in our communities because we all need employment, and that's even before housing. We all need a job, we all need to be able to afford to live somewhere, and it starts out with employment. That goes to show you that in Bedford-Stuyvesant and Northern Heights, there is no employment. As our small businesses close, then we lose jobs, and that affects our people who are coming out of the prison system looking for employment, but they can't be offered any employment within our district because we don't have any legislation to protect them, to even protect them, let alone ourselves. I started what is called the Equal Living Cost Rights Law, which demands that 50% of affordable housing be for low and middle income residents under specific financial guidelines. Also, I believe when it comes to affordable housing in the 36th District, Bedford-Stuyvesant and Northern Heights, that we need to call for an AMI that suits the community residents. We need to develop legislation that's going to develop an AMI that can be split between the AMI of the state or cities and communities. So please talk to me. I have a lot of different ideas and such. Thank you so much. I'm ready.
Does anyone have any questions?
Yeah, so my question to you is, how are you going to attack some of the issues that you've been talking about today? Like just strategy, I would like to hear what are some of the steps that you would take to securing jobs in your district?
Well, working with our community board, we have a committee that actually helps with providing jobs. They do that research. They do a lot of research into that. There's a committee that does that. So we have access but everyone needs to be aware of it. We need to make it aware to the people that it matters to, not just to people that that already have jobs, but we need to get out there into our community, go to projects, and we need to tell our people about the employment opportunities that are around.
One more question.
One more question.
You have a follow-up?
We have a question up here.
What can you tell us about your leadership style and how that would affect your approach?
My leadership style? Well, I always knew that I wanted to be a leader. I didn't know I wanted to be a political leader. I always thought I wanted to be a business owner. But as me coming and working with the community, I found out that I want to be a public servant. So I'm dedicated to the people. I'm dedicated to listening to the people because I know that it's what we want ultimately. And I'm running because I was a resident. I am a resident. I've been through what we all have been through. So that's what makes a good leader, someone who has been through what the people have been through.
Thank you, John. Next, we have a candidate running for office for councilman in the 42nd district. So I'm going to do my best to not butcher your name. Mauli Hormeku. You guys can give him your attention.
%87% of third graders in Brownsville cannot read on grade level. 62% of the household is headed by a single woman in Brownsville. We have a 14% unemployment rate in East New York. Canarsie has the highest foreclosure rate in Brooklyn's history this year. The list could go on and on and on and on. Enough is enough. Attending Columbia University, we learned one thing, which was leadership determines culture. So anytime there's an issue with your community or the culture of your community, you have to look at the leadership that we had. In Brownsville, East New York, East Flatbush, Canarsie has been plagued with unqualified and corrupt leaders. Enough is enough. I'm running for the 42nd Council District because I had enough. And I'm tired of this. So that's why we decided to combat and provide solutions for these disparities through love. That's my platform, love. And love stands for legacy, ownership, vocation, and education. Those are the 4 pillars of a thriving community. See, when we have a community and we practice legacy, we don't plan for tomorrow. We plan for 100 years down the line. But how do we gain that legacy building? We have to have ownership, right? We have to own our community. For us to truly have our own community, we have to own our community. How do we do that? We do that by having vocation, teaching our young men and women to get professions so they can have resources, so they can have a family, buy homes, use the equity to send their kids to school, etc., etc. And we need that to be focused solely on education. I went to Brooklyn Tech, have 2 degrees from Boston College, and I went to Columbia University. And if I told you I was from Brownsville, Mother Gaston Boulevard, you say he's an anomaly. I'm not an anomaly. You just didn't hear the rest of the stories and the other narrative that we have in our community. So we need new symbolism of what success is. We have to change the narrative. And the narrative is by love. Why do I say love? Because if you look at 1 Corinthians chapter 13, verses 13, it says there's 3 things that remain. There was faith, hope, and love. And the greatest of all those things is love. Faith. The black community, we always had the churches and the mosques and the synagogues to mobilize us, right? For power. That was faith. Then we had Obama, who gave us that hope, that sense of hope that we had an equitable society with equality. But now we're missing that one thing, love. How can we respect the government or other communities to love us if we don't love ourselves? So everything I do, from owning a building in my community and using entire rental income to give scholarships to the kids, is love. We have to love ourselves before we expect others to love us, Job creation. I'm the only candidate that has done job creation in their community. Level Solar and I wrote a grant to the federal government, Department of Energy. We received money to hire kids this summer in my community with job creations. That's what we do. We don't wait. As a leader, we are proactive. As politicians, that's reactive. Enough is enough.
Questions? 2 questions.
Yes.
Okay. So your opponent, I don't think is always very inclusive of everybody in the district. There are certain parts of the district, like Sarah City, that have a different population than other parts of the district.
Absolutely.
So what is your take on that?
I mean, that's why I said it's a new 42. It's not just East New York. We cover Canarsie, East New York, Brownsville, as well as East Flatbush. But there is a gambit of communities in my community. You have a strong Hasidic community in Starlight City that has issues as well that we want to address. And we are inclusive. I notice my opponent, I don't want to give her too much light, but we already know that she's very divisive, and also she doesn't cater to everyone in our community. You cannot be a council member if you do not address all issues for people in the community.
academic background, and you briefly touched on writing a piece of legislation. What professional background
Right.
are you coming to this with? What experiences?
Okay, so I graduated Brooklyn Tech, 2 degrees from Boston College, BA in psychology, a master's in curriculum and instruction, and I went to Columbia University with a master's in educational policy and social analysis, which allowed me to travel to 40 countries in 5 years to do research. Right? So I'm coming in with an educator's lens. And I know that education is really the key and the only real social equalizer in our communities. That's what allowed me to, when I heard, hey, there's 87% of the third graders that cannot read on grade level. So I said, I'm gonna go to Stone Avenue Library, which is actually the first children's library in America, and start a tutoring program. I said, hey, we're gonna use the entire rental income from the building that I own, which creates a rental income of $80,000 a year, and give that to the children in my community. We want to change the narrative. Once again, leaders are proactive. Politicians are reactive. Enough rhetoric. Let's get down to the action. Roll up our sleeves and get to work. Everybody's telling you, hey, I can direct you to this agency, I can direct you to that agency. We don't need Google or Dispatcher. We need solutions. We need solutions. And I'm a solution person. Thank you.
Great. Thank you.
You guys are still here. What's going on? All right, we have candidates that are running for judge here tonight. Thank you for coming. First candidate, Rodney Souvenir. Thank you for coming tonight, Rodney. You have 1 minute, okay? No questions.
No questions, guys. 1 minute.
Thank you so much. I only have 1 minute. I am running for civil court judge in the 6th Municipal District. What makes me qualified to do this? Well, I am a mother, I'm a sister, I'm someone who lives in the community. Not only that, I was a former prosecutor with the Kings County District Attorney's Office. I've dedicated my life, my legal career, to taking care of those who are disadvantaged. I happen to be the daughter of 2 immigrants. They had only an 8th grade and a 5th grade education. But they understood the importance of education, and they gave me the opportunity for me to move up. I can stand here before you as a lawyer today with the hopes of being a judge, only because these 2 people understood the importance of education. I'm the mother of 2 sons. I know what it's like as a prosecutor. I've helped other people become judges, but I also know what it's like to sit in the benches in a courthouse and understand the fear of having someone who's been incarcerated. I understand that. So I feel that I am qualified for this position because I've kind of worked all throughout the city in various agencies, working to support those who are less advantaged than I am. So I hope that you remember my name. It's Rodney Souvenir. It's hard to forget a souvenir when you go on a trip. And I've been doing this for the past 25 years. I started when I was 10, but it's neither here nor there. Thank you so much.
All right. Next we have Elena Barrett. Elena?
Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. We have all these great candidates here speaking to you tonight, and I'll be brief. My name is Elena Barron. I am running for Municipal District 6C. The district is Ocean Parkway, Avenue M, Brooklyn Avenue, and then it wraps around the Prospect Park. I've been a court attorney for all my professional career, worked for 3 judges in 3 courthouses, started out in Richmond Civil Court, then moved on to Kings County Civil Court, was there for 6 years. Then I was in the Supreme Court for 2 years, and I've seen issues that come before the bench. Courthouse is not a happy place. People come with problems, and by being there in the trenches all these years, I was able to help people deal with their issues, and people have respected me for helping them, sitting down with them. I've dealt with guardianship cases, I've dealt with landlord-tenant issues, I've dealt with personal injury cases. If somebody gets injured, they have to come to court and seek some kind of retribution. So I am seeking your support, and I would appreciate if you will consider, I guess all candidates bring something with their campaigns, and everybody has a package. I am local from the district. My home is in the district. I serve on the community board within the district. I am a member of the Residents Association. My family are all teachers, teaching graduate and undergraduate students. And from that background, I'm hoping to be able to serve you on the bench. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Elena. Okay, we're going to move on to candidates for the 41st City Council District. And first up is Alika Samuels.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for this opportunity. I just want to say I remember my days of being a member of the Brooklyn Young Dems. This was like way back in the day to me now. And I had an amazing time and experience, and I was the youngest district leader from 2000 to 2004 in the entire state of New York, and I was proud of that, and so was the Brooklyn Young Dems. So I just wanted to put that out there. So I'm running for the 41st Councilmanic District. I'm running for City Council because I have to. I'm running because it's my community. I love my community. I'm born and raised in Brownsville. The community is Ocean Hill, Brownsville, parts of Bed-Stuy, parts of Crown Heights, and parts of East Flatbush. I'm running because it's who I am. It's the only thing I know to do. I have always been of service to my community for way over 20 years now. When I first came home from college, my first job was working as a case manager for mentally ill homeless people with God at Riverside, extending my hand saying, hello, my name is Alika, do you need a sandwich or the other? I went on to become a child protective specialist for ACS. After that, I did everything from working for city council members as a constituent services manager, as a legislative aide, to working as a chief of staff to State Assemblywoman Latrice Walker, to serving my country as a human rights coordinator and a communications officer at the United States Embassy in Ghana, working for the State Department and USAID. I have done so many things in my community as a community organizer, so many things for my family, the residents, elected officials, for seniors, but the reason, everything that I have, everything that I am, is of service to my people. And my community, my council district needs that. For the past 12 years, we have been lacking in someone that gets it, someone that has a level of expertise, a level of experience, an educational background, a legislative background to go to City Hall and not just show up, but do what they're supposed to do. We've been lacking for too many years. So my community needs leadership. My community is imperative that we have somebody that can go into City Hall on day one and know what they're doing from the first day. When I was chief of staff to State Assemblywoman Walker, I wrote the Modernized Voter Registration Act. I wrote that piece of legislation. And not only did I write it, but I worked with other staffers to make sure that we had co-signers on that legislation. So everything from constituent services to knowing how to write legislation, to knowing how to introduce legislation, to partnering with your colleagues in government to make sure that it's passed, and to making sure that we know where the dollars are and bring that back home to the district. So in me, in my candidacy, you have somebody that has the experience, the expertise, the education, and everything to get the job done from the first day. Again, I'm running because I love my community, I love my people, and they deserve good leadership. So my name is Alika Samuel from Brownsville, and that's who I am. Within the 2 minutes that I had.
Any questions?
What are your plans as someone who's running for city council for the 41st district?
My plans?
Yeah.
So I'll say this, my plans are to expound on what I have already done and what I've already started. So a lot of people will come and say that they want to run for office, only having a vision or a plan to run for office, but not having anything to back that up. Right? So you want to make sure that you actually elect people that have done some level of work in the past. So I have done everything from applying for grants and receiving grants from the state, from the Department of Health, creating healthy places to live, work, and play. When we had problems with our children shooting in Brownsville in July of 2009, we had 20 shootings, we had 25 victims. And so we said, okay, what can we do about that? So we actually wrote a grant, got money into the district to hire the children who were part of who was either going to be a victim of gun violence or who had already done some type of a shooting. And working with the Juvenile Robbery Intervention Program with the NYPD, the children who are already caught up in the system, to provide them with some kind of job that they would not have to go out and rob their grandmother or rob somebody from the community. So that's something that we actually did, and we actually hired them to work on our youth markets. It started with one youth market when I applied for the grant that was 5 years, and today we have 3 youth markets that are actually done from the summer all the way to November on Pickin and Thomas Boylan, as well as Rockaway and Livonia, and one at the BRC. So it's making sure that we actually, like the gentleman said earlier, that we actually hire our young people to prevent them from doing something wrong in our community, and that's just be expounding on what I have already done. So everything from writing grants to helping allocate dollars on the capital level to NYCHA developments, and working with the residents on how to spend their money, similar to participatory budgeting with the city council, but on a state level, and working to make sure that the dollars that are coming down are spent the way the residents feel that they should be spent, and not the elected officials dictating on how they should be spent. So going into city council, I will just expound on what I have already done and building the relationships that already exist.
Any other questions?
Why don't you share a little about your educational background? The other candidate spoke about his educational background.
Okay, so I don't think so. I'm a graduate of a historical black college and university. I graduated from North Carolina A&T State University down in Greensboro, North Carolina. So whenever I stand up, I gotta say Aggie Pride, even if nobody's in the building. But it's always important to support our HBCUs. And I also have a law degree from CUNY. I went to CUNY School of Law, and I just want to say this about CUNY. The motto at CUNY is law in the service of human need. The reason why I went to CUNY, which is a public interest institution, is because I knew that I needed to know the language of the law in order to be able to be of impact in my community. Not necessarily practicing law, but understanding when I sit down at a table and we're talking about how to draft legislation, I need to know what the people are putting in that legislation to know the impact that it'll have on our community. So it's important to be able to have that type of legal lens when you're running for office. And so I did graduate from CUNY and North Carolina A&T, but I also say that with the law in the service of human need, Alika, my first name, means helper and defender of mankind. So I really can't help doing what I do and being who I am because it's just in my DNA.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Great. We're going to move right along. The next candidate for the 41st is Leopold Cox. Give him a nice round of applause, please. Thank you. We're going to continue to clap. Continue to clap. Thanks for your patience. Keep getting some drinks. Tipping your bartenders. Thank you.
Thank you. So good evening. My name is Leopold Cox. I'm running for District 41. I'm one of the boring guys. Not sexy, just boring. And the city council requires some of that, right? So, in my community, we have blocks. I live on one. There's shootings repeatedly, month after month, the same house, the same location, and nothing is being done, right? I believe, and I think I know, there are laws in the city where you could take that house. If you know it's the same house, it's the same people, over and over, it's the same shootings. We have to take that property. I think legally we could take that property. We have to do something. There's a lot, I have a lot of pet peeves. I look around all over the city. The whole city has been renewed. It's been rebuilded. It's been rebuilded in a way that some people are not going to be able to afford it. And in most cases, it's our people. I see giant storage places popping up all over my district, all right? Instead of building houses and affordable housing, we have this ugly, big, giant structures. How do we incentivize those developers to actually put something we could use? We don't need to store our furniture. We need to house the people, all right? So I'm not against business people for making money. I'm not against business people for making money, but we have to find ways to show them they could make the same money if they build housing, right? Because these big giant structures right in our communities take up so much space. Other little things bother me. Bus service. All right, we have bus service, especially in the winter. I'm not blaming bus drivers, I'm a bus driver. It's not the bus drivers, it's the schedule, it's the planning, right? In Manhattan, certain districts in Manhattan, buses every 3 minutes. Our people in Brooklyn, winter time, forget it. We have to walk. I'd like to work on that. There's a lot of other things. My biggest pet peeve is education with the class sizes. How are we going to teach our kids if there are 40 and 30 kids in a class? All right? We're fooling ourselves. It's not the teachers. Don't blame the teachers. It's not the teachers. We have to get past that. We have to put the money in the schools. We have to cut the class sizes. We're spending so much money down the road after our kids don't get the right education, and then we're spending all this money to house them in another institution, right? Let's take care of the problem up front. There's more to say, but...
Great, 2 questions.
Yes, sir.
The shooting on your block, what steps did you take to stop that particular house?
I didn't take any steps, I have to admit it. We could call the police, we spoke to the police, we go to community board meetings, the house is still there, same people still there. There's another issue with those houses and the problems. There's one 2 blocks from me right now. The owner right next door can't enjoy his property, right? Because they're selling food, they have music, they have drugs, they have other things I don't want to talk about. And it's not that we're not trying, but we have to find a solution. It's going to require some work that a lot of people don't want to do.
That you didn't do.
Okay.
Next question. Go ahead.
Yeah, so when there are people in the outside the community and they come into the community and they have requests that don't meet the needs that the people who live in the community expect, how are you going to react when there's going to be pushback for the ideas that you have on the table?
If you're asking me about business people coming in to set up businesses that I might not approve of, I'm saying let's incentivize them, all right? There's something called land use that we could use to avoid certain things, right? But incentivize them. The developers, they look for loans, they get breaks from the city. Let's incentivize them to do what we want. Any more questions, or do I get one more?
That was 2 questions.
Two.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay.
All right, great. We're going to move right along. We have Jamel Henderson for City Council 41st District. Round of applause.
All right. Good evening, everyone.
I like
Let's
that.
try that again. Good evening, everyone. There you go. Come on, this is an important matter, and we all are out here taking our time to listen to each and every one of us. And so let's give all of the candidates that came throughout this program a big round of applause for being here. So, great moments come from great opportunities. And what we have right now is a great opportunity to implement change in our city government. Now, I may not have all of the experience, but I have a story, and I have passion and a vision. So check this out. I'm 31 years old, currently a resident in New York City housing, Kingsborough houses, lived there for 11 years. My mother and my father have gone on to be with the Lord. May 8th was 4 years that my mother passed away. I was in foster care for 8 years. Had a wonderful foster mother, the late Betty Robinson, who passed away in 2004. Lived in the district from birth, 820 Albany Avenue, until I was 9 years old. Was in foster care for 8 years, moved to 861 Putnam Avenue at 17 years old. And now living in Kingsborough. A young man who is a 3-time CUNY graduate. Received his associates from the Borough of Manhattan Community College, received his bachelor's degree from Brooklyn College, and became a National Urban Fellow, receiving his MPA at Baruch College July of last year. If somebody like me, who lives in the projects, who've gone through all of these adversities and obstacles that life has thrown at him, to be before you right now to say, and be proud that I'm a candidate running for the 41st District in the great borough of Brooklyn, this is what it's all about. President Obama challenged us. If you don't like what you see in your communities, talk to people, grab petitions, and run for office. I personally answered that call. And if you check out my website, and I have palm cards that will be passed around, www.citizensforjamel.com, you will see an extensive vision plan where each and every one of us can work together on, because it's important that you are at the table with me. It's important that you are transparent with me as I am with you. It's important that I stand alongside you on everyday issues, and someone that is addressing the issues that our community needs, who's been firsthand a witness to what we have described in our communities. We're tired of the same old people who come in and say that they have all these things, and when they get into office, you have a better chance of getting summer jam tickets than getting to sit down with your elected official. I'm the person that grew up with humbleness, fortitude, and perseverance, and this is what I'm all about, so I'm willing to take any questions at this time. My name is Jamel Henderson. Thank you very much. Okay. Oh, you want to dive directly? No, okay. Yes.
Okay. So you said you're not as experienced as the other candidates, but you have a story, you have passion, you live in NYCHA development, Kingsborough. Okay. How is your story and passion going to erase the NYCHA deficit that we have right now? Because Brownsville, which is a majority of your district, has the second largest concentration of NYCHA housing in the city. So how is that passion story going to correct that issue?
Well, first and foremost, as you take a look at my vision plan, I have created an initiative called Moving On Up. I got that inspired by the Jeffersons, if you watch the Jeffersons. Because what's happening is, I know, like I said, I've been a Providence resident for 11 years, but I know that I will be moving on. I've got the credentials that I need to move on, all right? And it's important that my story inspire people who currently live in housing, because they're not hearing realistic heroes in our communities that live in the same circumstances that they are. And so if I'm able to inspire and make a difference, to encourage them that even if you don't go to school, if you don't go to college, if you're able to acquire some type of certification or vocational training, give yourself the opportunity to move up and out of that circumstance, so that way other people who are waiting behind can get an opportunity, because we know the public waiting list for people who are living in housing is nearly 3 to 4 years. And there are people who are just sitting there occupying it and aren't doing anything with their lives to move forward and giving somebody else a shot. What I have is a shot. And what I've been doing is sharing my story and inspiring people that, hey, this person looks exactly like me. He hasn't distanced himself from the community, and he is able to show that somebody who lives in the projects and lives in Crown Heights, and if somebody lives in East Flatbush or Brownsville that lives in public housing, that they could do the same exact things that I'm doing. You don't have to be a statistic. You could be the solution. And that's what I'm here to share with the people.
But you're still $17 billion short.
Okay.
That's why I say the maintenance. How is that story going to help with the funding for the $17 billion deficit? the story's amazing. It's
Am I allowed to follow up that question, or I have to take the next one?
No, you can take the next question,
Okay.
and then that follow-up you can have.
All right, so I'll have that follow-up with you. I'll be sticking around to answer that question. Next question. Yes.
Yeah, I heard that you keep, as he also kept mentioning, your story is somewhat what makes you different than the other candidates. Can you go a little bit deeper in what actually separates you from the other candidates? Because I did realize there's a lot of people running for this district, and everybody has a story. So, yeah, what separates you besides your story from these other candidates?
Excellent question. What separates me is the ability to, and the encouragement to go out and speak to each and every person in the community. To be able to say that, hey, despite what circumstances you have gone through, you can have the boldness to run for office. You can have the boldness to own your own business. You can have the boldness to come up with innovative ways to help enhance our community. Because let me explain something to you. I'm just one person. And I've taught leadership workshops. I've taught strategies where the everyday person in the community can be at the table. And so understanding who the key strategists are. Because if you study war is not won by numbers. It's won by key strategies. And so I would need you all to be encouraged to be participating in civic engagement. Understanding what community boards are all about. Understanding the participatory budgeting process. Understanding that you can testify at City Hall on an issue that matters most. Because many people in our communities don't understand that. So it's my job to empower you and to energize you that, hey, you too can be at the table alongside with me. Having an independent mindset. I'm not a part of any Democratic club, but I'm a proud Democrat. But I have an independent mindset where, in the great words of the Honorable Shirley Chisholm, I will be unbought and unbossed. So that's what I'm all about. Thank you all so much. And have a great evening.
Thank you. Thank you. Next up, Kathleen Daniel. Round of applause for Kathleen. Keep it going. Keep it going. Give me that energy.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for your patience. The generosity of your time makes this process democratic and possible. It takes a lot of courage to stand up here and run, but all the candidates standing up here can do nothing without you. No one of us is stronger or more capable than all of us. So thank you for being patient and sitting here and listening to everybody talk about themselves. God bless you. I'm going to make my commentary about myself as short as I am, so you won't have to endure it for too long. My kids don't. I am a working single African-American mother of two, first American born in my family of Caribbean immigrants. I currently am the director of outreach at Brooklyn Borough Hall, where I have been for 3 years now, an incubator of learning about how to run a city agency in the 4th largest city in this country. I am part of the resistance and have been before I knew it was the resistance. When I was at college at SUNY Albany, let me take it back. When I was a student at Midwood High School and Brooklyn College, where I went with Hakeem Jeffries and Kevin Parker, they were playing basketball and football, and I was running for student government every single year. and I always joke, now guys, it's time for you to vote for me, right? Move over to our district. And when I went to SUNY Albany, I was working as an intern for several different members of the assembly, not understanding that organizing was a thing. My parents said, no, that's not a job that you get. This is your civic duty. So when I was knocking on doors for well water with NYPIRG, I had no idea that I was organizing. When I came back home and I started to argue about what was I transferred to NYU because I couldn't afford 4 years of it, still paying student loans, heaven help us all. And when I came home and started to work on Sub-Saharan Africans and Haitian Americans being denied the right to give blood because of where they were from, their geographic origin. And so we organized an IOU program that people would give blood once a racist philosophy was repealed, and we won that. And now everybody can give blood, and all blood is tested, and we no longer have some of these archaic ideas. When I fought with New York Communities for Change, of which I've been a member for 5 years, for living wage, because I worked my way through school, it took me forever, but I finally got through. But working in fast food and retail, I worked at KFC, Sbarro's, The Gap, Macy's, and Bloomingdale's.
And I'm proud of it because even though I still have student loans, I worked my way through. And that is what we do in our communities. That is what the 41st Councilmatic District needs. Somebody who is willing to roll up their sleeves in the season of resistance, where we have orange people living in White Houses spreading psychoses across the globe, to stand up with our arms out and inoculate New York City from the nonsense coming down from DC. I will take questions and stop talking and start listening.
Yeah, are you working with any union leaders to create a living wage for people in the fast food industry, retail industry?
Actually, I worked with NYCC and Make the Road and Working Families Party. We fought this for 2.5 years to get the living wage that we're now going to have, the minimum wage being $15. I picketed many KFCs, including for quite some time the KFC right on Pickett in Bristol. Then we got any Brownsvillians here. And let me tell you, it is very difficult to stand out at KFC with your children picketing for their right to organize on a Friday night when people can't afford much but that $5 fill-up, okay? But it's important. And now I'm very proud to say that we have that. I also worked with several unions, RDSW, to get retail workers unionized. And we still have a way to go because not everyone working in supermarkets and retail organizations have a union, but we have a right to. One of the most important things that I plan to do as a member of the City Council is to ensure that we preserve union jobs for New Yorkers. We call ourselves a union town, but we let these developers come in, hire people from Philly and elsewhere who brown bag it, are non-union, and take their $15 an hour right back out of the city, and then we can't afford to live in the development that they're building. So we have to protect and preserve New York jobs for New Yorkers so that affordable housing becomes affordable and that we can have low-income housing because we have an income in order to purchase and rent those apartments. Gentleman right here.
You say you work with the union. We're going to speak to those unions about using some of the pension fund money to build housing like what the old union used to do for affordability, as opposed to waiting for developers to do it when the unions have all this pension fund money they're sitting and they could do it themselves.
But the gentleman brings up a great point. Unions, many used to use pension funds in order to build housing. But I understand an organization who we're not preserving union jobs, we're not giving them market share, and now we're asking them to invest in affordable housing. We have to have a true partnership where members of the council do not go along to get along, but they actually roll up their sleeves and stand independently, actually stand with each and every one of you to ensure that we are building and building up New Yorkers just as fast as we're building buildings in New York. So I agree, we should have the conversation, but we have to put our money where our mouth is and protect union labor. I'm Kathleen Daniel. Please, on September 12th, vote for the one who gets it. That's who should get your vote. Thank you, Ms. Daniel. So we have one more candidate from the 41st. So if you guys can give a round of applause to the Honorable Corey Provost, who is also a district engineer.
Thank you so much, thank you so much. You guys are troopers. It is late, it is a Tuesday, it is hot. I hope you're not hungry. If you're still thirsty, the bar is still going, right?
Yep.
The bar is still going. Definitely support small businesses. Give yourself a round of applause for standing up. So, some of familiar faces in the audience. Hi. To the new faces. Hi. My name is Corey Provost. I am the district leader of the 58th Assembly District, currently representing the neighborhoods of Brownsville, parts of Canarsie, and parts of East Flatbush. I am now a candidate for the City Council of the 41st Councilmatic District, representing the neighborhoods of Bed-Stuy, Crown Heights, East Flatbush, and Brownsville. And a little bit about my background, where I was before I decided to make this leap. So immediately before this, I jumped into the presidential race last year. I was the Brooklyn field organizer for Hillary's presidential campaign. We did go to Brooklyn. You know what happened with the rest of the country. But immediately before that, I was a liaison for the New York City Comptroller's Office, Scott Stringer, working as one of his Brooklyn liaisons, also doing Caribbean American outreach. Immediately before that, I was a college admissions counselor for CUNY. That was something that I always been, higher education is a principal part of my campaign. It's something that I still hold very near and dear to my heart, being in a position to help individuals get into college, get into higher education, so they can see some attainment in their own lives. And before that, I was in college. I did my undergraduate and my master's work at Brooklyn College. I had the opportunity to serve on the board of trustees for the City University of New York, and I think that's kind of like where I started my path, where I started my career. We were able to do some really great things stemming from that and my role in public service. We were able to push legislation through the board of trustees to make CUNY, I'm sorry for the smokers, but to make CUNY a smoke-free university. It's the largest urban university in the country, and we were able to pretty much prohibit smoking on campus to help impact and improve the quality of healthcare, or to help make individuals a little bit more healthy on our campus. So those are some things that we've done in the past, and I'm running for city council now because when I look at this district, when I see this district and I navigate it now, as I've navigated it for so many years, I see so much that needs to be done that hasn't been done. We've had an absence in leadership. A number of our elected officials got caught with their hand in the cookie jar. We need some more integrity in our elected officials. We need more substance in it from our elected officials, and we need to represent. We need individuals that are going to come into this seat that understand what's going on and understand where we need our community to go. That's why I'm running. That's why I stand for. And I think going forward, you're going to see a some tremendous improvements on this campaign. With that, I'll take a couple questions.
So what do you think are the biggest issues that plague Brownsville right now?
I think one of the biggest issues that really affects all, look, there are a number of issues that are wrong with Brownsville, right? There's a number of issues that are wrong with a lot of these areas in our super urban areas in our community, across our city. But I think healthcare or the health crisis is beyond, is probably the most. When you look at all those indicators, Brownsville is struggling. Diabetes, heart disease, HIV rates, and those are some of the things that have been impacting and continue to impact our community. I think that the city can do more, they ought to do more, they need to do more, and they can do more if I'm elected a city council member for this community.
How are you going to inspire those young kids to go to college?
How do I inspire young kids to go to college? I think, much credit to Jamel, right? Jamel, I think, gave he spoke about a passion that he has, to inspire individuals. And I think that is something that is missing for our elected officials. We need elected officials that can be symbols that we can look up to. We need those individuals in our life because we need something for individuals to grow to, especially those that have felt left out, felt disenfranchised. We need them to be able to partner with individuals to kind of bring them up, like a mentorship. And how I do that is similar. I think my career, my path, my successes speak to that. Growing up in a single parent household, first generation American, I've transcended, I think, so many pitfalls that capture so many of our youth that I can speak to those individuals as I have done and I continue to do. When I was in college, I created a mentoring program. And we used to bring our elementary school students to the campus and partner them with college students so they could get a first-hand take on what's a day in the life of college. And that's something that we can continue to do. When I look at some of the work that we've been able to push through in a number of capacities that I've held, it kind of speaks into all of that. So that's what we're looking forward to. I think that might have been my last question. So with that, I definitely want to say thank you, everyone. I know there's a straw poll tonight, so you don't got to wait till September to vote for me. You can vote for me tonight. I appreciate it, and I encourage you to support me tonight and support me in September. Thank you.
So before we bring up our next candidate, we are going to hear very quickly from our president in the back, John Wasserman.
John. No, he's here.
So he's going to be announcing our next candidate.
All right. So I want to announce the next candidate, someone I went to high school with. And the reason why I'm inviting up on this stage is so we could join our party, because this party, the Democratic Party, welcomes all voices. Jabari is running for city council. He's running on the Green Party line. He's got a lot of good things to say, a lot of good things that I agree with.
What district?
The 36th district, I'm sorry about that.
35th.
The 35th district. We invited the other candidates. They will be coming to future things, but we wanted to give the opportunity to Jabari to tell us why he's running for office. And you guys can question this guy, all right? He's running on the Green Party, all right? He's not running with us, but we can question him. We can tell him why he's running, what he believes in, and how we can work together in the future. So thank you so much for coming, Jabari.
All right, thank you.
Thank you for your patience.
Thank you guys so much. You know, before I came here, Debbie invited me over Facebook. I said, are you sure? I am in the Green Party. I know I'm going to pass the buck right now. I said, I'm in the Green Party. Are you sure? And she was like, yeah. So that's why I'm here. It's a shame that council member Robert Carnegie left. I was going to make a great joke about me also biking here in a pink shirt, but I did wear a blazer. Yeah, but, you know, he went. So I'll start with a different joke. If John, if anybody wants a picture of him in the 6th grade, I have it on my phone. And I can show that around after that.
That was very cute.
He was, I'll give him that. So again, my name is Jabari Brisport, 35th District, not 36th. That's right across Flatbush in Prospect Heights. It's Crown Heights, Bed-Stuy, Fort Greene, Clinton Hill, and like 3 blocks in Dumbo. And the reason I'm running is because I spent the past 10 years doing political theater and marching in the streets. And after Trump got elected, I felt like that wasn't enough. I was marching through in the rain November 9th, and it really did not feel like it was enough. So I decided to take the next step and go forward and go into the halls of power. If you remember Jumaane Williams, he started off tonight and he said he doesn't know what a progressive is anymore. I also not sure what progressive is, even though I've called myself that. I'm running as an open socialist. And what that means, I know it's a spooky S word, right? But what that means is I want the economy to be shifted from one that is designed around profit and one that meets the needs of people. I'm a democratic socialist because I believe the best, I know somebody's like waving it off. I'm a democratic socialist because, what? Oh, it's a fly, okay, no problem. Fly like me, right? No. It's a democratic socialist because I believe the best solutions come when people come together. And I believe that the people who will be affected by policies should have a say in what those policies are. So I'll be very brief. Oh, I thought I was clapping, but it was something falling. So I'll be very brief about the 3 pillars of our campaign. It rests on 3 things. 1, that Black lives matter. 2, that housing is a human right. And 3, economic justice. Black Lives Matter, you know, we see lots of like small little tidbits or small little adjustments to police reform. I want actual structural change. So what that means is I believe that the CSCRB that oversees the police should be an elected civilian review board so that you, the people, can have a say in the oversight of the police. I also, you guys know participatory budgeting? Yeah, we all know that. We're all very politically active. Let's bring that to the NYPD so that you have a say in how the NYPD is spending its budget. I think giving people power is more important than just giving them a chance to voice their concerns. Last but not least, I believe we should also have residency requirements so that police are actually living in the communities they serve. Moving on from there, Black Lives Mattering. Affordable housing. I'm not here to play games with developers. We've all heard the story. They come in and say, which is, you know, I can only build so much affordable housing, but really, you know, I've got to slip in all these luxury condos in order to pay for it. No. If any developer comes into District 35, what's that 5 minute for?
5 seconds.
5 seconds? Black Lives Matter, affordable housing, economic justice. I'll take questions.
All right.
Yes.
You started to mention affordable housing. Right now, the rate of rent in a lot of areas, especially your area, is at the level of a mortgage. How do you propose to drive down rent costs or trying to help build a legislation amongst city council members in the city to bring down the rising rent costs across the city?
I support a rent rollback, which is coming up along in rent-regulated units. And also, in terms of building new housing, what I was going to say is that, well, one, if a developer wants to come in, upzone a property, they won't see the time of day from me unless they release 100% all their financials to the public. So there's that. Is that a answer? Oh, okay. So sorry. Oh, yeah. Sorry. No, yeah. I'll get you next. So aside from that, we'll also increase revenue streams to increase affordable housing in the city. One will come from a vacancy tax from people that are just buying properties and leaving them empty because they want to stash their money, either because they're here or international people. Another one is an anti-speculation tax on people that are buying homes just to house flip them, because house flipping is displacing a lot of people within the city, especially Brooklyn. So we'll do those. I'll also work with developers to switch to more modular and prefabricated housing, because that's known to decrease cost in building, and if we can decrease construction costs, we can decrease the cost of rent. And I believe, I know I got this right, but yes.
Okay, so I actually live in the district that you're running.
Yes.
Great. So I'm actually curious to ask you a question about the Bedford Armory.
Yeah.
And if you were actually the elected official in this position, what would be your strategy on approaching this development issue? Would you actually put the center in? And I'm just going to give a little background. After hearing the conversation, there's been roundtable discussions about this, and I just think what is happening there in this development site, they haven't thought about like the resources it could bring into the community. One, they get a center, but I think sometimes we think so small when it comes to development projects, so I'm going to use Newark now. In Newark, they've created this Haynes building. It's a new development project. They have something like the Gotham Market where they have the food, they have, you know, Whole Foods, ETC housing. But in this project, they gave 2 floors to Rutgers University. There's this free printing space now from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. for just creating art for artists. And I think this is like beneficial development. And if you were given this space, like what would be some ideas you would present to the developer to bring access within to the district? So maybe like a think tank, for instance, but I'll let you go.
Yeah, Bedford Union Armory. It's in Crown Heights. It's a massive battle in my district, and yes, there are some great things coming in. The community asked for a rec center because the kids there have nothing to do. There's a lot of gun violence, and maybe if they had a chance, they had something to do, we could decrease violence in the community. What I would do, because yes, I agree, there are benefits to it. However, what the company is doing is they are saying, yeah, sure, we can build a rec center, but we need to build tons of luxury condos on top of it in order to pay for that. They're definitely lying because my friend from New York Communities for Change asked for the financials. They sent her something that was 100% redacted. It was just an email that was all black, completely useless. And again, the developers, they're a big fan of their name as BFC Partners. They're a big fan of Donald Trump. I don't trust them. And I don't trust many developers that refuse to say how much money they're making on a profit because they're making money they're making on a profit. Money they're making on a development because they're making record profits and saying they're doing their best. I don't think that's true. So what I would do, sorry, I did not answer your question yet, was I would put the space into a community land trust. And what that means is that you, the people, organize into a nonprofit, you own the land, and you have final say over who's building on it, who's renting it out, and where the money is going. And that way, the land can never be taken from you from a corrupt politician and given to developers that just want to make as much money as they can on your land. Socialist. Yes. Oh, that was 2 questions, sorry. Okay, so again, Jabari Brisford, I'm sorry, I'm not joining your political party, but I love joining the party of ideas in this room.
You gotta think about it, right? You gotta think about it.
You can join the Skinner Political Club.
Alright.
All right, guys, what a show tonight, huh? Give it up for our candidates. Give it up for our Central VP. Give it up for our Executive Vice President. Give it up for the entire Brooklyn Young Democrats. And this is the start of something big. And I want to welcome someone to our executive board tonight, Ikoya Atkins, unanimously elected treasurer. Thank you so much, Ikoya.
Thank you.
I appreciate Want to say a few words?
Well, okay, yeah. Well, I didn't know I was going to get it. But no, not literally like that. But I know I applied. Other people did have interest. But I'll be honest, I'm very exposed to the political arena in Brooklyn. But on a national level, I just got back from the DNC chair race. And so after being on the DNC chair race and being involved in that, I was exposed to how they control these funding. They raised $2 million in 6 weeks. Right? And so we talk about issues that are in the community. It gave me a different perspective, how we can fundraise, how we can organize, and how we can actually make a stronger party here in Brooklyn. So the reason why I decided to apply and get involved into the Brooklyn Young Dems, because I think if we're able to have a supportive budget, we can help these candidates that came tonight. So like for instance, we endorse someone, now we can have a ground operation. I've worked on plenty of campaigns and I see the support that can be done when you have money. So we have to bring some money into the party, and I think that we'll be able to support a lot of these candidates and get their message across and keep young people engaged. That's really one of my big things. I do millennial meetups once a month and to just begin the engagement process, and I think being here, this will be a great home, and I know that we're going to have an amazing budget come next year. I can put
great, everyone. Thank you so much. And then our next event is May 31st, the Southern Regional Forum at Salty Dog. And we'll see you then. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. And get more drinks, please. And tip your bartender. Have a good night. Drive safe.
No, she knows.
Thank you.
That one is filled up. Somebody filled it up.
One quick announcement to everybody left in the room. If you received a straw poll and you completed it, you can then give that to me.
Right here. I'll be bringing them around. Thank you. Yeah. In the forum, May 31st. Isn't it for
It's only for paying.
Yeah, just do money.
Yeah, I don't think she knows that.
Got you, girl.
Well, he can get one. He's saying. Congratulations, Tobin. You are